Hey YouTube, it's Stephen Michael McDowell, aka Buttercup, here on the very late end of day 25 of Vlog Every Day in April. And I don't really know what I want to talk about. Um, Literally nothing. Literally nothing. I want to talk about literally nothing. No, that's not actually necessarily true. I have been thinking about a lot of like complex ideas, but I've also been thinking or like thinking critically about how I express my ideas because like right now I'm putting on like a voice. I've like got my voice a little bit heightened, and very like I think that there's something that could be that could amount to the standardized American accent or like dialect, and I feel like I've done over the course of the past decade like a pretty rigorous job of like adhering to and adapting to like what it is that I think society at large, which is made up mostly of white people, expects me how to talk about things or expects to hear me vocalize about things, and like occasionally I like leave that space. I like am pretty comfortable with doing accents or talking how I do around my hood, but I haven't done that here yet for a prolonged period of time. So I kind of want to run an experiment and talk about the complex shit that I've been thinking about in the way that I really talk. uh, and so here goes that. Um, so uh, I've been thinking a little bit about multiplanarity and like what that notion even fucking references, especially like the multiverse theory and just like how there's this notion that like or like the model that you see a lot of times in when people are talking about quantum mechanics and shit, that like there ends up being this just like there's like a web model, it's like an expanding web, and I'm realizing that doesn't seem like a really functional model for how the idea could be best conveyed. Because I was thinking about it and like imagine yourself inside of a cave and like making a sound, and then like the sound goes out, bounces off all the walls and shit, and then like comes back and like hits your ears. But the sound waves are also in addition like going all over the place and like interacting with each other in the air and all this other shit, and like thinking about it in a more fluidic sense might be more effective ultimately. And I think that's fucking really interesting because the way that it's depicted in models is not specifically reminiscent of that sort of like out of the out of the box kind of conception of it. And like the reason why that's funny to me is because um, like I had to be thinking about it in the way the African American English sort of structures ideas in order to even come up with that imagery. That like when you're thinking in white speak or like in like white people's way of breaking down ideas and shit, that like what you end up doing is you get this like really constricted notion of like how a thing must be, but like and it's funny to me because like one of my real respectable fucking one of my real respectable friends uh told me that he really likes like the expand the American English lexical expansion pack that comes with like shit like the Oxford Dictionary and fucking Webster's and shit. And I was like, you know what, I don't think that that's necessarily, I don't think that ideas are restricted to well, like how much language you have for a thing. It's about whether or not you just have language for a thing. If you got a functional metaphor that like explains an idea, then like it doesn't matter what kind of like how limited your language framework is, as long as, because there's still the same number of things in the universe. It's just how you interrelate them. So like a web versus a I don't know, not necessarily just a cave, but like some sort of like finite fucking enclosure, I guess. Because I mean, you could think about it as an ocean too, like, because like oceans have borders or barriers. You know, like no matter which direction you're going in the ocean, it may be big as fuck, but like you're gonna run into something eventually. You know what I'm saying? So um, uh, like if a fish makes a sound in the middle of the ocean, in the same way that the butterfly effect works, like there's going to be this like echoic, effect that is going to that's going to impact like fucking the weather somewhere else, all the other fish surrounding that fish. It could like result in the ending of that fish's life. But what you end up making is this big networked thing, but it works more of like there's like a thing, it's like more spherical. It like starts out here and then it goes out, and like it depends on whether it bounces off of things or like ends up coming back to the source somehow, whether it's, fish makes a sound, another fish hears the sound or like feels the wavelength and then like makes the same sound back or a similar sound back or conveys some other sort of idea. This works a lot better with fucking whales because they make, sounds that are somewhat audible to things that humans pick up, like used to pick sounds up. But I don't know. I just it's funny because like I'm really fascinated by multiverse theory, but like I think it's kind of dumb. I think it's like it's dumb in the like it's unnecessarily dumb in the complexity of it. It's dumb complex, but then also like it seems dumb because it's so rigorously limited by like a not a lack of necessity for context just generally, you know what I'm saying? So um like I like thinking of the universe as this thing that is like held within some sort of vessel where there's like this like chemical reaction happening, as if it were like a pan, like one of those like deep pans that like where you're making cornbread and it's in the oven, right? And so like it's cooking and like there are all these interactions that are happening chemically inside of the cornbread, but it's like limited by the framework of this pan, and the pan's kind of malleable, so like as it gets hotter inside the oven, the pan might expand as the cornbread solidifies and may push up against the edges of the pan, but it also kind of forces the cornbread to rise, you know what I'm saying? So like I think that what is happening in the universe is that it's more of a collapsing of into a fixed reality rather than there being like each interaction that you have with the universe forks off into a million different universes or an infinite number of different universes. I think what's really happening is that there is a constant infinite potential for an outcome, and then it collapses into the outcome that you experience. Like, does that make sense? You follow? It's a collapsing, not an exploding. Anyway, that's all I had to say. This has been Stephen Michael McDowell, aka Buttercup, Veda, day 25. That's all I got to say about that. Catch you in the next one.